Hi, welcome to the Glow Interviews. My name is Katie Onan. I am an author, psychic, motivational speaker and coach. The Glow Interviews is a place where we can meet some really amazing people who are a light in the darkness. I know that through talking to them, we'll all be left feeling empowered, inspired and hopeful of a brighter tomorrow. All of the contact details for both myself and my guests are in the description box below. So do check that out if you'd like to contact either of us. Today's guest is Beverley Bishop. She is a trained hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner who specialises in anxiety and weight loss. She is also trained in laughter therapy and runs regular online sessions. As someone who has attended one of these, I can tell you it is life-changing in one of the most positive ways. Beverley has a new wellbeing show called Finding Magic, which uses a mixture of storytelling, humour, magic and film. She also made the film Five Days to Say Goodbye, following the death of her son Jess. Beverley is truly an inspiring soul whose incredible spirit can't help but inspire you, empower you and lift you up. And I am deeply honoured and humbled to have this chance to speak with her today. So hi Beverley, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, bless you. It's always strange to hear your bio read back, isn't it? It's a bit like...
It is. Oh, is that me? Is that me?
Bless you. So the first question I always ask everybody, because I think it's really important with what's happening around the world at the moment, is, of course, 2020. So how have you been coping with this crazy year, and have you found any blessings in this crazy chaos?
I think it's been my saving, actually, without doubt. Yeah, without doubt. I think this terrible thing has happened to the world, but actually, I think it has kind of saved me.
Do you want to expand on that? In what ways?
Yeah. I think before lockdown, I was going around in circles. I was too busy. I do struggle to say no. That is a bit of a thing that I have. Maybe that comes being a freelancer. I go, oh yes, and I guess I'm a naturally optimistic person, that I'm generally up for doing things. So I find myself saying yes without actually thinking things through. And I was
guilty of that too, to be fair. I think it's a people-pleasing tendency.
I think it's so easy to do. Yeah, I do have this habit of saying yes and then thinking, well, should I have said yes to that? But I'd overshot myself significantly. Traveling all over the country, I was absolutely exhausted, and I knew something wasn't working for me, and I kept telling myself, Bev, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. This really has got to stop. And it was getting so that I was scared to look at my phone. I was scared to log on, because then I'd have emails to deal with, or WhatsApps or text messages, and I kept saying, this has got to stop. And but I didn't stop. I just kept going round and round and round in circles. And then with lockdown, I was forced to stop. And suddenly I found I could breathe again. I could breathe again. And suddenly nothing was expected of me at all except to stay at home. And it came as such a relief to me.
I understand that, because I do feel, it's funny, most people I've spoken to about 2020 in these interviews have all had a really positive take on it, that they've all felt in their own way that they were on the hamster wheel of their life and couldn't get off. And actually the lockdown especially kind of, it was almost like a general cultural forced solitude, you know. It kind of made you review, reassess, kind of really look at where your life was going and to get some clarity on whether you're going in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly gave me a lot of thinking time. And I live alone. So I spent a lot of time alone, and I realized I like being alone. I love being alone. And as somebody who's naturally quite sociable, that surprised me. But I was really happy in my own company, and I don't think I ever got bored. Um, yeah, yeah, it was a very healing time for me, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I do feel like weirdly it's kind of, obviously I'm not taking away from people's loss and what awful things they've been
Mm,
through, but I think on a general level, it's kind of really, like I said, made us come closer to who we are and what we want for ourselves moving forward. It does feel like a huge global reset button, doesn't it?
yeah, 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 definitely,
And it's
definitely.
going to be interesting to see where it takes us moving forward, I think.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because for me, especially the first stages of lockdown, I felt there was a palpable shift in energy,
Yeah,
in people and the planet generally, that I felt we did seem to adopt this wartime spirit, that we're all pulling
yeah,
together and supporting each other and being positive, helping each other out. And I know that for me, that the air smelled much fresher
mm,
as well. I mean, I think we're all getting a bit tired
yeah,
now. And the sense that I'm getting is people are feeling a little bit worn down by it now. They've kind of had enough and want to
I
get back
agree.
to normal again.
Yeah,
But in the early stages, I did feel that people were really pulling together and, okay, let's do this.
yeah, exactly. Because we kind of have
So,
that within us, don't we? As we know, as British people, that kind of, like you say, that war spirit, that kind of
yeah,
inner strength. You know, that quote "keep calm and carry on" is a British
yeah,
quote. So that's what we
yeah,
do. But like you say, I do think people are kind of over it now.
yeah, I do think people are getting tired now. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So, in your bio, I spoke about how you suffered the tragic loss of your son. And as a
Mhm.
mother myself of three children, I can only imagine. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine really how painful and traumatic and just awful that must have been for you. So, why did you feel the need to kind of change that into a film? Did you feel it would help other people, or what was your kind of thinking behind that?
um I think possibly as a person, I tend to do. I'm somebody who does,
Mm,
um, and I am a creative. That is part of me, and I think I have a need to make things. It's a need I have. I think it's my creativity is my way of processing my own thoughts and
mm,
feelings, and expressing them
yeah.
well. Um, so I think in many ways creativity is my therapy.
Mm,
Initially, when I wrote the script for the film, um, I don't think I was deliberately doing it as a catharsis.
mm,
It was initially the final days I spent with my son, which was in the funeral home, were really special, really, really tender. And it was when I said everything that I wanted to say to
mm,
him. And I found that period of time very, very comforting.
yeah.
Um, I did speak out loud to him. And for me personally, without that process of visiting him every day, I'm not quite sure I'd have got to the funeral, because
Mm,
it would everything about it was so surreal,
yeah.
really. And even at the time, I felt like I was in a film. I did feel like I was in a film because it was all so surreal and almost as if like this can't be really happening to me. And sometimes it was as if I was seeing myself. Um, it was as if I was an outsider looking in. So it did feel like I was watching a film,
Yeah.
and I just kept thinking about those times, and I thought I'd like to make a film. I'd like to make a film as an expression of love,
Mm,
my son. I'm making it out of love for him because I love him so very, very much, and I wanted it to be a lasting testament of our relationship.
yeah.
on what my relationship with him meant to me, but also I think I was wanting to share with the world our relationship. So that was the starting point. And then, and I didn't know, well, I didn't even know whether it was going to be any good. It was something I had a need to do. And then once I'd made it, I kind of felt, well, I would like people to see this film, and if it helps in any way, then that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If it helps in any way at all, because I just don't think any mother or anybody should have to suffer in the way in which I suppose the position I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, losing my boy he took his life. And again, not that I can take away other people's suffering, but you know, the thought of Jess suffering in the way in which he suffered, I wouldn't want anyone to go through that either. I would implore them to seek help and accept help in some shape or form, however it might look to you, because we're all different. We are all different.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this year, so many people have lost loved ones, and it's just like the world's going through a huge period of grief and shock and loss. And I know it's kind of, I suppose, quite a generalized question to ask, really, because everyone's situation is different. But what do you want to say to people who are really suffering right now, as somebody who's gone through the worst pain that you can possibly go through?
Express it. And what I mean by expressing it, I mean talk to somebody, write it down, draw it. If you play a musical instrument, dance it, let it out. Don't bottle it up. Express it. And I'd say to people, and if somebody is courageous enough to speak to you, listen to what I've got to say, listen. And I've got a little bit of a bee in my bonnet about listening. I think in my limited experience, just it was 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, I found people have been quite quick to offer advice, and I've not necessarily been looking for advice. I've been wanting people to listen and to really, really hear me, because for me, well, one, I wasn't asking for advice, but actually the worst thing in life has happened to me, and nobody can make that better. Nobody can make that better, and nobody can take away that pain. But I want people to sit alongside me and to listen, and that's what I'd like to be able to offer other people. To be there to really, really hear them. So I would implore anybody who, if they've got a family member or a friend who are really struggling, listen, really listen, and be there. And you don't have to fix it.
No, absolutely. That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing. You know, so many of us, if somebody comes to us in pain and in stress and in problems, it's our natural inclination to make them feel better. That's not your responsibility. You can't make somebody feel better, you know? All you have to do is hold the space for them. Just be there for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful phrase, holding space. Because I think that is, sometimes it feels like, but we're not doing anything, but actually you're doing an amazing thing by holding space for that person. I think that's a true act of love and kindness.
I totally agree. I find that a lot of people, when they listen, they're not really listening to you. They're thinking about what they want to say and waiting for their turn to talk, right? So it's like, to actually fully actively listen to somebody and to hear what they're saying, even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if it upsets you, even if it's not what you want to hear, it's still one of the most powerful things I think you can give to people. Absolutely. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I will say, as somebody, I mean, I've not lost a child, I thank God for that, but my grandparents were killed in a fire 10 years ago and died on the same day, and it was traumatic, to say the very least.
Goodness.
And what Thank you. What I've come to realise is that I used to get really cross with people who would kind of be like, with the best will and intention, I suppose, but because they wanted me to kind of be happier, is like this feeling of like you're supposed to get over it at some point. Like if you go through a healing process and suddenly you're okay again. And actually, I heard the analogy of like grief is a sea anemone. So that when it's raw and it's your first go through it, it's like got the big black spikes on it in your heart, and they're painful and they pierce you and they hurt. Over time, and it's been 10 years now, those spikes wear down, but that black core of the anemone will always be a part of you. You don't get over death. It becomes part of you. You learn to accept it and live with it and try and carry on, right?
Yeah.
This thing of like you're going to get over it at some point is just, it's harmful, I think. You know?
Yeah, and I do think often, not just with grief, but with lots of difficult feelings, we have a tendency to box them off and pretend they're not there, or act as if they're not there. And well, I do act as if quite a lot, and I find that sometimes really helpful, because otherwise I wouldn't get out of bed in the morning.
No.
But actually, yeah, I think to acknowledge that it's there, and I you know, and I think my grief will always be there, and I will eventually learn to live with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a process.
I don't believe it'll ever be gone.
No, of course.
It will become part of my life forever now, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, this thing of like, it will always hurt, it will always be painful, but it just becomes part of you. And like you say, it's kind of weird to think, because one of the questions I'll be honest with you, I thought of was, do you think your life would have gone the way it's gone had you not lost him? But of course, you don't know that, because it's hard to imagine now life on that different path, a kind of a sliding doors with a Paltrow film kind of way. That it happened, and it happened, and it's changed your life, and it's made you who you are. But all we can try and do, I think, is, like you say, you almost, I don't know how you feel, but certainly for me, it's kind of living your life to honour them in some way, to kind of try and be the best you can be every day.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing I do know, circumstantially, I've now created 2 pieces. One was a film, and I've created a show, a full-length show, based on the theme of grief and hope, actually, and magic, and love. But I wouldn't have written and created pieces based on that particular subject matter were it not for Jess dying, because it's based on my experience. So I know that much. I know that in terms of what I've made and the content of it, it has been shaped by my experience. And if this dreadful thing hadn't have happened, I wouldn't have made those 2 pieces, but I may have created something else different, based on a different life experience that I may have encountered. And I guess if this hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be speaking to you now. So I guess our life experiences do shape us, and we grow into, I think I'm growing into the new me. The old me's still there, but I'm becoming you know, I'm still me, but I'm a different person somewhat to just over 2 years ago, because of that life experience. I'm still me, but I have a different experience now. So yes, of course I'm wounded and scarred, but perhaps I'm more hopeful than I perhaps was.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I don't think people can kind of tell you how you should react to grief, or how, because everybody's experience of it is different. Everyone's personal. Your healing journey is different, and some people will be able to accept it quicker than others. But it doesn't mean that anybody's journey is wrong, or you're doing it wrong. You just have to kind of flow with the way that works for you, don't you, ultimately?
Yeah, and I've made a promise to Jess. I'm going to live the best life because living a life for the two of us now, and
Yeah.
I'm going to make it the best life I can possibly live for
Hmm.
me and for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, and for
absolutely.
him. Yeah.
Do you believe in an afterlife? Do you believe that he walks with you? Do you think he's there with you,
I'd
supporting
like
you?
to, but I don't know. I don't. I
Mm.
really. I don't know. I'd like to. And then there's another part of me, because he absolutely didn't. I thought, oh my God, he'd be really cheesed off. Oh, he'd be so cheesed off because he was so definite that there was nothing, he didn't believe in anything like that.
Mm.
He was so rational and down the line. And I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't it be awful though if he did come back as a spirit, he'd spend the rest of his life being cheesed off.
Angry. He's like, this is not how it's supposed to be.
No, exactly.
Oh,
And
bless
there's
him.
almost, for that reason, I'm thinking, oh God, maybe it's best if there isn't, because he's gonna be really cheesed off for eternity. And then there's another part of me likes the idea
Mm.
of there being something else, and
Yeah.
he's still with us.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really don't know on that one.
I think it's good to kind of sit on the fence and just see what happens when you go, perhaps,
Yeah,
and then you'll know.
and then I'll know.
Oh, bless you. So I know that you believe in the transformative power of laughter. And like I say, I've
Yeah.
been to one of your sessions and it is, I don't say that lightly, it is life changing. It really is. So why do you think laughter is so important in our lives? And has it really helped you to move forward in your own?
Yeah, I think it sounds a bit crass, but I think it's become my personal practice.
Mm.
It's something that I ensure I do every single day,
Mm.
because I find laughter is an amazing release of emotion, and I've got a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. There's a lot still there, and there's that element. If you don't laugh, you cry, because I think laughter and tears are the opposite ends of the same thing in
Agree.
many ways.
Absolutely.
Um, and I don't want to spend my whole life crying. And there's nothing wrong with crying. I think it's really, really healthy to cry. But I'm thinking, but I have found this thing called laughter. We all laugh. We've been laughing ever since we've been about 3 months old or something.
Yeah.
But I find laughter lifts my spirits,
Mm.
and it helps me to release stress.
Yeah.
And I think laughter's always been part of my life. I like humor and I like comedy. I've always liked that. But when I talk about laughter as being my practice, I actually focus on the sound of laughter.
Mm.
Um, I guess it's called laughter yoga, but I tend not to use the word yoga often,
No.
because I think people think that I get into the downward dog or the lotus position and they just start, like roaring with laughter. And it's not,
Been there.
it's not that. It's not that. It's focusing on the sound of laughter, and being playful
Yeah.
with it. And I do think of it as being an
Yeah.
exercise. And in the mornings I go through it. It sounds bonkers, and it is a bit bonkers. But in the morning, I go through a vocal. It's a bit like a vocal workout, if you like. If you're a singer, you do scales.
Yeah.
But I go through a series of exercises, which vocal exercises based on the sounds of laughter, which for me just helps me just. Well, it releases endorphins. It de-stresses me. It gives me energy, and it's a wonderful, wonderful release, and it gets my
Mm.
heart pumping and warms up the whole body.
Definitely. I so agree. Because, of course, I wrote a book about happiness, didn't I? And I know, see, people think you have to be in a certain mood to be happy and to laugh, right?
Yeah,
And I say it's rubbish, because the brain is just a computer, right? So if you
yeah,
smile for 60 seconds, even if you don't feel like it, it releases serotonin in your brain. It makes you happier. It's like,
yeah,
it's crazy. Children laugh about on average 120 times a day. Adults laugh about 5. So
yeah,
it's almost like we have to work at it and kind of put ourselves forward, don't we? Even if we're like
yeah, yeah,
stressed and
yeah,
miserable.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I say it's an exercise. I do it as an exercise, which
Yeah.
does sound really bonkers. However, as you were saying, it shifts your mindset.
It really
And
does.
simply going through the motions of it does make you feel naturally happier, in the same way that, you know, smiling makes us feel happier. And it connects us to people.
Yeah, exactly. That shared laughter is, it's magic, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. I mean, since lockdown, that one of my routines has been, I've been running online laughter sessions, and I have a small group of people. There's about, on average, any session I run, it's about 6 to 8 people, I'd say, on the screen, and I run a 20-minute session, and it's just so beautiful for connecting, and we've all gotten to know each other over the lockdown period. I don't think I knew any of the participants. No, I knew a couple not very well.
Yeah.
And then there are lots and lots of people I'd never ever met before, and it's really lovely to see their faces in the morning. And it's like, oh, hello, and you know, I still don't know an awful lot about their lives, but we've learned bits and pieces about each other, and we have a conversation at the beginning before we get started, and then we do this thing together called laughter for 20 minutes, and it's a beautiful thing, and we get playful as well. So that's when, you know, natural laughter starts. And as adults, I don't think we play enough. We don't give ourselves permission to play and be childlike, which is different from being childish. Being childlike, we're able to play, have a lightness of spirit, and have fun just because. And as adults, I don't think we do that enough.
No. I was going to say to you, you know, how would you guide people who really kind of struggle, perhaps they're in a really bad place right now, and the idea of just having fun and being childlike seems completely alien right now? How would they even find a way in at this point? Do you have any kind of tips they could give to people?
Well, find something that you enjoy doing, even if you're feeling a bit low. It might be, well, I don't find anything joyful, but perhaps something that even you don't mind doing. Or it is something as simple as, okay, I am going to smile for 20 seconds, or I'm going to make the sound ho, ho, ha, 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 ho, ho 10 times and stop. And it's a silly thing to do, but actually I'm just going to give it a go, because what have I got to lose? What have I got to lose? That's 10 seconds of my life to just give it a go, to smile, make that sound, or if you're not even sure how to be playful, I know we're in lockdown, so it's sometimes difficult, especially if you're living on your own, but if you've got a pet or children, spend time with children or pets, because they know how to be playful.
Oh yes, absolutely.
They know how to be playful, and take the lead from them. And you know, if you're going for your daily walk or something, just, you know, if you see children playing, and just enjoy that moment. And
there's no sound, is there, in the world greater than children's laughter? It's just the most pure thing.
It's so beautiful. And sometimes, you know, I have a photograph of me when I'm about 5 or 6, and I find that really helpful, because that reminds me of what it was like for me when I was 5 or 6. So simply by looking at that photograph, I immediately remember happy memories, or remember the feeling of being 5 or 6 when I was naturally quite playful. So it might be, you know, thinking back to your childhood, a happy moment in your childhood when you were naturally playful, whether you were, you know, in the school playground, or with your parents or friends or grandparents, aunts, uncles, or whatever.
Yeah, I like that, because it's like sometimes I do think people kind of overcomplicate things, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Laughter is so natural, isn't it? It's just finding that way that's good, that kind of works for you, really. And it may be different today than it is tomorrow, but you have to keep looking for it, don't you?
Yeah, Yeah. And it's there and it's all around us. And, have all been doing it since we're babies. And, there's no language barrier with laughter.
No.
It doesn't matter where you're from in the world, the sound of laughter is the sound of laughter. It's
Yeah.
it's a connection and it's a communication.
Absolutely. I remember when I was on holiday when I was about 6 or 7 actually, and we were in Spain, and there was another little girl in the pool, and I couldn't speak Spanish and she couldn't speak English, but all we could say was hola, and then we had laughter and we would play in together, but we couldn't speak to one another. We were just laughing our heads off.
Yeah. And in that way, you understood each other perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. It was beautiful. I totally agree. So, of course, your new show is called Finding Magic. So, which sounds incredible, by the way. I really hope I can get to see it at some point. So, what led you to create this in this new direction?
What happened? The starting point. I mean, I had no intention of writing a show at the moment it kind of happened. The idea happened. The starting point was actually, it was a dream I had.
Okay.
And I dreamt that I was a fairy. And it was this mad dream, and I was a fairy. And then I remember telling Jess's dad about it, and my other son Sam, all about this dream, and I was telling them about it in quite some detail. And I was risking it a bit because they don't take anything I say seriously remotely. So me saying I had a dream about a fairy, that I was a fairy, and you can see they were rolling their eyes. Oh, here she goes again. Oh. But anyway, as I was telling them, I was starting to get quite upset. And then I got really upset, and then I started to cry. And then Simon, Jess's dad, said, "Sam, give your mum a hug." And then Simon made me a cup of tea, and then he gave me the tea, and he said, "Well, I think you've got the starting point for a new show there." And with that, he went off into the living room and he said, "Do you fancy watching another episode of The Big Bang Theory?" And he said not a word more. That was the end of that conversation. But then that got me thinking, oh, that's an interesting idea. Oh, and then because the starting point was a fairy, I thought it was going to be a children's show.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I've not written a children's show for about 20 years. Oh, this will be interesting. Oh, I'd love to do a children's show. Oh, and then I started playing around with some ideas, and then it ended up not being a children's show at all. What I think it does, it's about the essence of childhood and the essence of what I found joyful as a child and what I found magical as a child. And it's about hopes and dreams, but it's also about loss. It's about, it's a, broadly speaking, it's about my grief journey so far in a bid to find magic again. And yeah, so that's how it started. So it started in quite a left field way, and it went through, a variety of different forms before it kind of landed, if you like. And I wanted it to be magical, and I wanted it to be beautiful, and I wanted it to be hopeful, because I believe in all of those things.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I'm going to have to learn magic now, aren't I? If I'm if I'm calling a show Finding Magic, there's got to be magic in it. So I taught myself some magic during lockdown, and then I found myself a wonderful magic shooter called David Fung, and we did. It's a great name, isn't it? And we did magic online. On Zoom, and what he did, which was really quite remarkable, he read my script and he found appropriate tricks that fitted with the script, because it's not a magic show. He was looking for tricks that would enhance the script. and that in some ways would parallel the story. So in a way, the magic tricks act as a bit of a visual metaphor for part of the story. And that was a glorious learning as well, to learn some magic, because I'm naturally really clumsy. Really clumsy. And magic is a really precise art form. You've got really very precise and focused. You know, you can't mess about with it. So that was a glorious thing. So as well as, I guess, for me, being creative, looking at what my journey is so far, which did include lockdown because it was written during lockdown. But it also gave me an opportunity to learn a new skill as well, which is also a rather lovely thing to do. To learn something new. Learn something new. That keeps our brain ticking. Learning something.
I think it also boosts your self-esteem. I think we grow and develop when we push ourselves. Staying in your comfort zone is not going to give you an awful lot, really. We have to go these leaps of faith and trying new things. And sometimes you will fall flat on your face. Sometimes it won't work. But it's all part of the journey, right? It's still learning. It's still teaching you things, right? Even if it goes hideously wrong.
I mean, that was a fear. That was a genuine fear that I had. Was, oh my God, I'm performing magic on stage live. What if it goes wrong? Oh, what are the chances of it going wrong? Oh, I've not done this before. Oh.
I would just jazz hands it out. That's what I would do. I'd be like,
so I mean, the show is an hour and 10 minutes. An hour and 10 minutes. But actually, I was happy with, I'd say 90% of the show. The 10% was the magic. Because I'm thinking, I can't afford for this to go wrong. I need to make it go right.
It's quite a lot of pressure to put on yourself, I'm not going to lie.
And then I'm thinking, and I also need to look like this isn't hard. I need to make it look easy.
So inside you're like, and on the outside you're like,
yes, exactly. And as David said, practice.
Practice,
absolutely.
Practice.
Yeah.
I think people forget that. I think I always see magic as almost like dance routine in miniature. I think, like you say, it's very precise movements, and you have to have your hands here and your arms here, and like anything, I think that people get frustrated because they almost want it easy. They want it to kind of do it quickly, but it's like anything. You have to practice. You have to put the hours in, don't you?
Yeah. You do. So that was a wonderful thing. But the show's not just about that kind of magic. It's about magic, whatever that word means to you. Magic might mean joy. Magic might mean magical. Magic might for you be, what's your spark? Or your mojo, or I was exploring that term magic in the broadest sense as a what is it for you that gives you life, that helps you through life. Magic for me is also about connection. That's one of my magics. I love connecting with people. When I connect, when it's a true, honest, open connection, it's a beautiful thing, an amazing thing, and that makes me feel amazing. And I hope that it's mutual, but it's there's nothing like connecting with another. Well, it doesn't even have to be a human being. It could be an animal. It could be if you have a honest connection with your pet, but I love connecting, and for me that is magic. That is magic.
I totally agree. I really agree with that. Absolutely. So if you could get into a DeLorean with Marty McFly and travel back to your childhood, what would you say to your younger self? And you can pick the age. I'm not giving you a specific age on that.
Do you know what? I don't think I'd need to say anything to my younger self, because I think my younger self was quite sorted. It was it was a, it's when life happened to her.
No one, this is the 19th interview and nobody has given that answer yet. That's brilliant. I love that. That was fine. It's this that's messed up completely. Oh, yes. I want to applaud you for that. That's a good answer. I like that.
I do. I think, yeah, I did. You know, I'm not saying I was a deliriously happy child, not at all. But thinking back to my childhood, I was quite self-assured, I think, as a child, and going back to me saying that I enjoyed being on my own in lockdown. I was very self-contained as a child. I was very happy in my own company, and I danced when I was a little girl, and that was my joy. I loved to dance, and so in that sense, I think my needs were met in a way. I was never hungry. I was, I was fortunate to be very much loved, and I had a joy, and I felt, I think, quite assured in it. I mean, I think I was lucky as I was quite good as a dancer. I'm not anymore. I've got dodgy knees. I can, yeah, anyway, that's another story. But I still no, I still do dance, but when I was a little girl, I loved it, and people used to comment. People used to like watching me dance, and I think that gave me a confidence, and that gave me an inner confidence. So yeah, as a little girl, I think I'd just remind her that she's all right, actually. Just, no need to change. Stay as you are, girl.
Just be you. Yeah, I like
just
that.
be you.
I like it.
Just be you, because you're fantastic as you are.
Bless you. That's the best answer I think I've had so far. I love that. That's amazing. So who or what inspires you to be your best self now?
Well, it is Jess. It is Jess, without a doubt. He's constantly on my shoulder in a nice way.
Yeah.
In a nice way. What I miss about him is he was my greatest fan, and he did used to articulate it a lot, and he used to always be very, very encouraging of me, and he always used to, I think, perhaps even expect more of me than I expected of myself, but in a really positive positive way, that he felt that I could do anything I could do. And he had absolute faith in me. He used to laugh at me a lot as well, an awful lot. But he had absolute faith and confidence in me, and he would be very encouraging. And he'd always, in a way, like, encourage me to reach for the stars, in the same way as hopefully I encouraged him. I miss that because nobody's going to take his place ever.
No.
And nobody else. Nobody else says the things to me that he used to say, but he's always on my shoulder, and I can hear his voice quite a lot when I'm wanting to do something, encouraging me. Or sometimes, even if I'm getting a bit maudlin, I could hear, "Oh, pull yourself together, mother," because he used to call me mother just to wind me up. And so sometimes that gives me the lift that I need to say, "Oh, come on, things are not so bad. Come on.
That's the blessed thing, isn't it? They may not have anybody who's ever going to say those things to you now, but the very fact that you had someone who did, and those memories stay with you, is in itself a blessing, isn't it? Because you carry that forward with you.
Yeah. And I can still hear his voice, and sometimes I worry, what happens if I can't remember the sound of his voice anymore? I do sometimes ask myself that question, and then I think, well, why are you asking that question when you can hear his voice at the moment?
Yeah.
Why am I wasting that energy on the what ifs?
Exactly.
When I can hear his voice in my head, as clear as day on a bright sunny day. So, why waste your energy asking those questions that, may never be?
Yeah, because the future is not known. If 2020 shows anything, the future is not known. All we have really is today. So we have to just be grateful for today and find the magic, find the blessings and the reasons to laugh and smile and focus on them. That's what's important, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, last question, my darling. So I called these into.
That's quickly, hasn't it? Goodness
does
me.
with gabbing, isn't it?
I hope the listeners are actually thinking the same and not thinking, oh God, she's going on and on and on. It's Katie's most boring guest ever. Oh, we should shut up.
They're not going to think that, are they? I promise you that. They're not going to think that. It's more like, Katie, all right, wrap it up. You're boring. Anyway, so I called these the Glow interviews because I wanted to bring some light to the darkness and to kind of help people in my own way. So, and I think this is going to be a good answer. I can feel it. What lights you up and brings you joy?
The immediate thing that came into my mind, it was sunshine, because I love sunshine. It's laughter and it's people and true connection.
Beautiful answer. I don't think you could get more succinct than that, if I can speak. That's beautiful. And Beverley, honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for talking to me, for being so honest, so open. It's been a wonderful conversation and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you ever so much.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it too. It's been a real pleasure.
Go and check Beverley out. Seriously, this woman is amazing. I promise you, you work with her, but you won't be long before you're laughing your head off, as you have seen. So she's amazing. Go and check her out. Links down here. And thank you to everybody who's watching. We both wish you, I'm sure, lots of love, lots of reasons to smile, and we hope you all have a very beautiful day. And I'm sure I will see you on the next one. Everybody, take care. Love. Bye.